Hi, kids. Hey, what time is it? It's story time. Yes, it is. Hey, welcome to episode 8 in our story, Wonder. Now, you may recall, Wonder is the story about the young boy who was just starting middle school for the first time, but he had a very, very unusual face. Now, the last episode, we was reading the story from his sister's Via's perspective. Remember, we already saw how Augie felt about the way people treated him and the things that was happening to him. But also, there are things that were happening in Via's life that was directly associated with Augie. I mean, things that he couldn't help. But Via's friends started acting kind of funny. I mean, these are friends she's known since the first grade. They went to elementary school together. They went all through middle school together, and now they're in high school. But over the summer, after Via came back from visiting a relative, she noticed her two best friends, Ella and Miranda, weren't the same anymore. At school, they seemed to have a whole different personality. They were hanging out with a different set of people. And they didn't seem to have Via included in the things they did. And Via could see that they were no longer the same as they used to be. And they were treating Via as though she was just a casual acquaintance and no longer the close friend they used to be. Via felt it was best that maybe she needs to cut her relationship with them. So gradually she stopped going to lunch with them, and then pretty soon she stopped seeing them all together, except occasionally in the hallway, and they just say hi. But these kids, her friends, they started hanging out with the popular kids, and they would wear these different fashions that Via wasn't quite used to. Okay, but now Via did meet another person, a person by the name of Eleanor. Now, she used to go to elementary school with Eleanor. Now, they went to different middle schools, but now they're back in high school together, and they're getting to know each other for the first time. And Eleanor is very, very smart, but then so is Via. And through Eleanor, Via wound up getting in with Eleanor's group of smart kids. In fact, at lunchtime, they all sat at the smart kids table. And I'm kind of curious, do you guys in middle school and high school still have your different tables for your different groups? Anyway, her old friends, Eleanor and Miranda, they're hanging out with the super popular kids, and I guess at lunchtime they sit at the popular kids table. So Via has gone her separate ways from her old friends, Eleanor and Miranda. Okay, so that brings us up to where we are right now, because you remember her relationship, this breakup of her relationship, even though she didn't want to show it, it was really bothering her. She used to cry a lot about it. Okay, all right, let's continue with our story. Now, remember, these things that are happening to Via right now are happening at the very same time as earlier in our story when we heard of things happening to Augie. Remember when he was so upset that he just got so sick to his stomach that he came home early? He didn't feel like going out trick-or-treating anyway. Well, this is that same night, but only we're going to see it from Via's perspective, all right? So, August says he wasn't feeling well enough to go trick-or-treating later in the afternoon, which was sad for him because I know how much he loved to trick-or-treat, especially after it got dark outside. Even though I was well beyond the trick-or-treating stage myself, I usually threw on some masks or some or other to accompany him. And down the block, watching him knocking on people's doors, giddy with excitement, I know it was the one night of the year when he could truly be like every other kid. No one knew that he was different under that mask. To August, this must have felt absolutely amazing. At 7 o'clock that night, I knocked on his door and said, "Hey," he said, "Any back?" He wasn't using his PlayStation or reading a comic book. He was just laying on the bed. looking at the ceiling. Daisy, as always, was next to him on the bed and her head draped over his leg. The bleeding Scream costume was crumpled up on the floor next to the Boba Fett costume. "How's your stomach?" I said, sitting next to him on the bed. "I'm still nauseous." "You sure you're not up for a Halloween parade?" "Positive." This surprised me. Usually August was such a trooper about his medical issues, whether it was skateboarding a few days after a surgery or sipping food through a straw when his mouth was practically bolted shut. This was a kid who'd gotten more shots, taken more medicine, put up with more procedures by the age of 10 than most people would have put up in 10 lifetimes. And he was sidelined from a little nausea. "You want to tell me what's up?" I said, sounding a bit like Mom. "No." "Is it school?" "Yes." "Teachers? Schoolwork? Friends?" He didn't answer. "Did someone say something?" I asked. "People always say something," he answered bitterly, and I can tell he was close to crying. "Tell me what happened," I said. And he told me what happened. He had overheard some very mean things come from the boys, what the boys were saying about him. He didn't care what the other boys had said. He had expected that, but he was hurt that one of the boys was his best friend, Jack Will. I remembered his mentioning Jack a couple of times over the past few months. I remember Mom and Dad saying he seemed like a really nice kid, saying they were glad August had already made a friend like that. "Sometimes kids are stupid," I said softly, holding his hands. "I'm sure he didn't mean it." "Then why would he say it? He's been pretending to be my friend all along. Tushman probably bribed him with good grades or something." "I bet you he was like, 'Hey, Jack, if you make friends with a freak, you don't have to take any tests this year.'" Mm-hmm. "You know that's not true. And don't call yourself a freak." "Whatever. I wish I'd never gone to that school in the first place." "But I thought you were liking it." "I hate it." He was angry all of a sudden, punching his pillow. "I hate it. I hate it. I hate it." He was shrieking at the top of his lungs. I didn't say anything. I didn't know what to say. He was hurt. He was mad. I let him have a few more minutes of his fury. Daisy turned, licking the tears off of his face. "Come on, Augie," I said, patting him on the back gently. "Why don't you put on that Jango Fett costume, man?" "It's a Boba Fett costume." "Why does everyone mix that up? Boba Fett costume," I said, trying to stay calm. I put my arms around his shoulder. "Let's just go to the parade, okay? If I go to the parade, Mom will think I'm feeling better and make me go to school tomorrow." "Mom would never make you go to school," I answered. "Come on, Augie. Let's just go. It'll be fun, I promise. And I'll let you have all my candy." He didn't argue. He got out of bed and slowly started pulling on his Boba Fett costume. I helped him adjust the straps and tighten the belts. And by the time he put on his helmet, I could tell he was feeling better. August played up the stomachache the next day so that he wouldn't have to go to school. I admit I felt a little bad for Mom, who was generally concerned that he had a stomach bug. But I had promised Augie that I wouldn't tell her about the incident at school. By Sunday, he was still determined not to go back to school. "What are you planning to tell Mom and Dad?" I asked him. When he told me this, "They said I could quit it whenever I wanted to," he said. He said this. He was still focused on a comic book that he was reading. "But you've never been the kind of kid who quits things," I said. "Truthfully, that's not like you." "Well, I'm quitting. You're going to have to tell Mom and Dad why." I pointed out, pulling the comic book out of his hand so that he'd have to look up at me while we were talking. Then Mom will call the school and everyone will know about it. Will Jack get in trouble? I would think so. Good. I have to admit, August was surprised me more and more. He'd pulled another comic book off the shelf and started leafing through it. August, I said, are you really going to let a couple of stupid kids keep you from going back to school? I know you've been enjoying it. Don't give them that power over you. Don't give them that satisfaction. They have no idea I even heard them, he explained. No, I know, but Via, it's okay. I know what I'm doing. I've made up my mind. But this is crazy, Augie, I said emphatically, pulling the new comic book away from him too. You have to go back to school. Everyone hates school sometimes. I hate school sometimes. I hate my friends sometimes. That's just life, Augie. You want to be treated normally, right? This is normal. You have to go to school sometimes, despite the fact that we have bad days, okay? Do people go out of their way to avoid touching you, Via? He answered, which left me momentarily without an answer. Yeah, right. That's what I thought. So don't compare your bad days at school to mine, okay? Okay, that's fair, I said. But it's not a contest about whose day sucks the most, Augie. The point is that we all have to put up with the bad days. Now, unless you want to be treated like a baby for the rest of your life or like a kid with special needs, you just have to suck it up and go. He didn't say anything, but I think that last bit was getting to him. You don't have to say a word to those kids, I continued, August. Actually, it's so cool that you know what they said, but they don't know that you know what they said that you know. What the heck? You know what I mean. You don't have to talk to them ever again. And if you don't want, and they'll never know why, see? Or you can pretend to be friends with them, but deep down inside, you know you're not. Is that how you are with Miranda? He asked. No, I answered quickly, defensively. I never faked my feelings with Miranda. So why are you saying I should? I'm not. I'm just saying you shouldn't let those little jerks get to you, that's all. Like Miranda got to you? Why do you keep bringing up Miranda? I yelled impatiently. I'm trying to talk to you about your friends. Please keep mine out of it. You're not even friends with her anymore. What does that have to do with what we're talking about? The way August was looking at me reminded me of a doll's face. He was just staring at me blankly with his half-closed doll eyes. She called the other day, he said finally. What? I was stunned. And you didn't tell me? She wasn't calling you, he answered, pulling both comic books out of my hand. She was calling me just to say hi, to see how I was doing. She didn't even know I was going to a real school. I can't believe you hadn't even told her. She said the two of you don't hang out as much anymore, but she wanted me to know she'd always loved me like a big sister. Double stunned, stung, flabbergasted. No words formed in my mouth. Why didn't you tell me? I said finally. I don't know, he shrugged, opening the first comic book again. Well, I'm telling Mom and Dad about Jack Will if you stop going to school, I answered. Tishman will probably call you into the school and make Jack and those other kids apologize to you in front of everyone, and everyone will treat you like a kid who should be going to a school for kids with special needs. Is that what you want? Because that's what's going to happen. Otherwise, just go back to school and act like nothing happened. Or if you want to confront Jack about it, fine. But either way, if you... Fine, he interrupted. What? Fine, I'll go, he yelled. Not loudly. Just stop talking about it already. Can I please read my books now? Fine, I answered, turning to leave his room. I thought of something. Did Miranda say anything else about me? He looked up from his comic book and looked right into my eyes. She said to tell you she misses you. Quote, unquote. Thanks, I said casually too, embarrassed to let him see how happy that made me feel. Wow. Wow. So that's how Via has been feeling about all of this. And that's how Augie has been feeling about all this. She gave him a good talking to and talked him into going back to that school. They don't know that he overheard them. Okay, and that could work in his favor. So far we've seen this story from two perspectives, from Augie's perspective and from Via's perspective. And each perspective gives us a dimension to the story. The first dimension, and then Via's perspective gives us a second dimension. Now, if you want a third dimension, which is 3D, to really bring this story to life, what if we heard the same story from another person, another perspective? And in this case, that would be from Summer. You remember Summer? She was the only person in that school that came up and made friends with August. She came and sat with him at lunch. They struck up a conversation. They found things that they had in common, like what they called their summer names and so forth. You know, all the other kids in school seemed to be focused on how he looked, and they just talked about him or talked at him and made dumb remarks. But Summer, she talked to him. She looked past that weird-looking face and talked to him as a person and found that they're not so different after all. Let's see how she feels about this. This is from Summer's perspective. Some kids have actually come out and asked me why I hang out with the freak so much. These are kids that I don't even know well. If they knew him, they wouldn't call him that because he's a nice kid, I always answered. I didn't call him that. You're a saint, Summer, Zima Chin said to me the other day. I couldn't do what you're doing. It's not a big deal, I answered her truthfully. Did Mr. Tushman ask you to be friends with him? Charlotte Cody asked. No, I'm friends with him because I want to be friends with him, I answered. Who knew that my sitting with August Pullman at a lunch table would be such a big deal? People act like it was the strangest thing in the world. It's weird how kids can be. I sat with him that first day because I felt sorry for him. That's all. Here he was, this strange-looking kid in a brand new school. No one talking to him. Everyone was staring at him. All the kids at my table were whispering about him. And he wasn't the only new kid at Beecher Prep. But he was the only one everyone was talking about. Julian had nicknamed him the Zombie Kid, and that's what everyone called him. Did you see the Zombie Kid yet? Stuff like that gets around fast, and August knew it. It's hard enough being the new kid, even when you have a normal face. Imagine having his face. So I just went over and sat with him. You know, not a biggie. I wish people would stop trying to turn it into something major. He's just a kid. The weird-looking kid that I've never seen, yes, but just a kid. I do admit August's face takes some getting used to. I've been sitting with him for 2 weeks now, and let's just say it's not the neatest eater he's not the neatest eater in the world. But other than that, he's pretty nice. I should also say that I don't really feel sorry for him anymore. That night, that might have been what made me sit down with him in the first place. But it's not why I keep sitting down with him. I keep sitting down with him because he's fun. One of the things I'm not loving about this year is how a lot of the kids are acting like they're too grown up to play things anymore. All they want to do is hang out and talk at recess. And all they talk about is who likes who and who is cute and who isn't. August doesn't bother about that stuff. He likes to play Foursquare at recess, which I love to play too. It was actually because I was playing Foursquare with August that I found out about the plague. Apparently this is a game that's been going on since the beginning of the year. Anyone who accidentally touches August has only 30 seconds to wash their hand or find hand sanitizer before they catch the plague. I'm not sure what happened to you if you actually catch the plague, because nobody's touched August yet. Not directly. How I found out about this, that Maya Markowitz told me that the reason she won't play Foursquare with us at recess is because she doesn't want to catch the plague. I was like, what is the plague? And she told me. I told Maya I thought that was really dumb. And she agreed, but she still wouldn't touch the ball. But she still wouldn't touch a ball that August had just touched. Not if she could help it. Wow. I was really excited because I got an invitation to Savannah's Halloween party. Savannah's probably the most popular girl in the school. All the boys like her. All the girls want to be her friend. She was the first girl in the grade to actually have a boyfriend. It was some kid who goes to MS 281, though she dumped him and started dating Henry Joplin, which makes sense because the two of them totally look like teenagers already. Anyway, even though I'm not in the popular group, I somehow got invited, which is very cool. Which I told Savannah I got her invitation and would be going to her party. Because she was really nice to me, though she made sure to tell me that she didn't invite a lot of people, so I shouldn't go around bragging to everyone that I got invited. Maya didn't get invited, for instance. Savannah also made sure to tell me not to wear a costume. It's good she told me, because of course I would have worn a costume to a Halloween party. Not the unicorn costume that I made for the Halloween parade, but the goth girl getup that I'd worn to school. But even that was a no-go for Savannah's party. The only negative about my going to Savannah's party was that I wouldn't be able to go to the parade and the unicorn costume would be wasted. That was a kind of a bummer, but okay. Anyway, the first thing that happened when I got to her party was that Savannah greeted me at the door and asked, "Where's your boyfriend, Summer?" I didn't even know what she was talking about. "I guess he doesn't have to wear a mask at Halloween, right?" she added. And then I knew that she was talking about August. "He's not my boyfriend," I said. "I know, I'm just kidding." She kissed me on the cheek. All the girls in her group kiss each other on the cheek. Now, whenever they said hello, whenever they say hello, and threw my jacket on a coat rack in her hallway. Then she took me by the hand down the stairs to her basement, which is where the party was. I didn't see her parents anywhere. There were about 15 kids there. All of them were popular kids from either Savannah's group or Julian's group. I guess they've kind of merged into one big super group of popular kids. Now that some of them have started dating each other. I didn't even know there was so many couples. I mean, I knew about Savannah and Henry, but Zima and Miles and Ellie and Amos and Ellie's practically as flat as I am. Anyway, about 5 minutes after I got there, Henry and Savannah were standing next to me, literally hovering over me. "So, we want to know why you hang out with the zombie kid so much," said Henry. "He's not a zombie," I laughed like they were making a joke. I was smiling, but I didn't feel like smiling. "You know, Summer," said Savannah, "you would be a lot more popular if you didn't hang out with him so much. I'm going to be completely honest with you. Julian likes you. He wants to ask you out." "He does? Do you think he's cute?" "Yeah, I guess. Yeah, he's cute." "So you have to choose who you want to hang out with," Savannah says. She was talking to me like a big sister would talk to a little sister. "Everyone likes you, Summer. Everyone thinks you're really nice and that you're really, really, really pretty. You could totally be part of our group if you wanted to. And believe me, there's a lot of girls in our grade who would love that." "I know," I nodded. "Thank you." "You're welcome," she answered. You want me to tell Julian to come and talk to you?" I looked over to where she was pointing, and I could see Julian looking over at us. I actually need to go to the bathroom." "Where is that?" I went to where she was pointing, sat down on the side of the bathtub, and called Mom and asked her to pick me up. Is everything okay, Mom?" "Yeah, I just don't want to stay," I said. Mom didn't ask any more questions, said that she'd be there in 10 minutes. "Don't ring the bell," I told her. "Just call me when you're outside." I hung out in the bathroom until Mom called, and then I snuck upstairs without anyone seeing me, got my jacket, and went outside. It was only 9:30. The Halloween parade was in full swing down Armsford Avenue. Huge crowds everywhere. Everyone was in costume: skeletons, pirates, princesses, vampires, superheroes, but not one unicorn. Let's stop right there. So, what is happening here? We're now looking at it from Summer's perspective, and she's hearing all of these bad names that they call August. They talk about him behind his back. They've got this game they play. They don't even want to touch anything that he has touched because they say you'll get the plague. How mean these kids are. But you see, she's not getting wrapped up in that. They keep asking, "Why do you talk to the freak? If you cut him loose, you could be part of the popular group." Apparently, being part of the popular group didn't mean that much to her. She'd rather get away from that party. Those are not her kind of people. There's a lot to be said about Summer, and we'll read a bit more about her in our next episode. So you be here for that, okay? Hope you're enjoying this, because I am. Until then, don't forget that Grandpa truly believes that you are strong, and I truly believe that you are smart, and I know 100% that you are loved. Until next time, bye-bye.